What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week. Unfortunately, I am back in the normal office here, so I don't have the amazing backdrop like I had last week. I'm glad so many of you enjoyed that backdrop of being at Toyota's headquarters with an LFA Nürburgring edition behind me. I don't think I'll ever be able to top that backdrop, but I know a lot of you really did enjoy the outdoors weekly update idea, and so I'm thinking about maybe doing some of those in the future in different places, maybe trying to have some fun backgrounds here to switch it up every once in a while. But anyway, in the meantime, we're here in the office because it is a thunderstormy day. But anyway, some big news this week. First off, Nissan has officially finally revealed the reveal date for the new Z. So they didn't reveal whether it's going to be Z or 400Z. Car and Driver still thinks it'll be called 400Z. Everyone else seems to be thinking it's going to be called just the Z now. Anyway, August 17th is the reveal date. So we still have to go through most of the summer before we finally have all the details on the new Z. Maybe we'll get some leaks or something before then, but that's when the official reveal is happening. It's good that we finally now have an actual date to look forward to, but it's unfortunate it's so far away since I know so many of us are chomping at the bit, especially the summer months. You want to, plan your sports car purchase, and unfortunately, you're going to have to wait a couple more months here. But it will be a 2022 model year vehicle. They did reveal that in the reveal here. Right? So I'm hoping that means it'll be coming relatively soon after the reveal and it won't be a big long wait. But anyway, hopefully we get all the details on it there in August. Honda this week has also revealed a teaser for the 2022 Civic Hatchback, and visually all it reveals is the side profile, but that's fine. We've already seen what the back end's going to look like thanks to leaked patent images that we saw a few months back. But this full reveal will be happening a lot sooner, June 23rd for the Civic Hatch. And in the meantime, they did confirm the great news that it'll be again offered with a 6-speed manual transmission, which is great, just like the last generation. They didn't give any powertrain details to go along with that, but it sounds like this generation Civic is going to be carryover powertrains, unfortunately, aside from the Type R. In that case, it's very good, but everything else is like, eh. But anyway, if that is the case here, then it'll be offered on the 1.5 liter turbo 4 you get in the regular Civic, which does 180 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. Hopefully they fix the rev hang. That's all I want, is just please get rid of the rev hang. I don't care if the MPG drops by 1 or 2. Just get rid of the rev hang, please. Anyway, they also revealed that the hatch will be built in the US instead of in the UK, which does open the door to a potential SI hatch because the SI motor is built, I believe, in Michigan, and so it was tough to ship it all the way to the UK and then ship the whole car back to the US. It was a little bit of a logistical nightmare, I guess, previously, which is why it never happened. Hopefully now everything's in the States, so that'll make it a little bit easier. Although I believe the SI sedan is actually built in Ontario, Canada, but they did say this hatch will be built in the States. So hopefully they'll be able to ship the engines a little bit easier. Maybe actually do an SI hatch this time. We'll have to wait and see. That's just speculation, but at least from a production line standpoint, there isn't as many hurdles as before. And yeah, not sure when we're going to actually see the new SIs, by the way. I believe this is just for the regular hatch, of course. So SI hopefully will be coming sometime later this summer. Hopefully we don't have too much longer to wait for those. But interesting to at least see that we'll be getting the hatch soon. Audi has teased some great news here. The new RS3 sedan and hatchback were teased, and the wrap on them confirms the firing order here for the awesome 5-cylinder turbo engine that it'll be getting just like the last generation, and that is fantastic. Even if it's the same power, just the fact that engine with its awesome sound continues on is totally fine. I don't even care if that's a carryover engine. And so hopefully the full reveal of that happens soon, and we don't have too much longer to wait, hopefully, for that. And it would be awesome if they offered the hatchback version here in the United States. I know it might not be super popular, but look at how Volkswagen does really well with the GTI being a hatch, and it could kind of be like a baby RS6 Avant, in my opinion. It would be kind of cool to follow that up, with the RS3 hatch. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, awesome to see that it is just getting the 5-cylinder. That's awesome. Ford this week has revealed the 2022 Maverick pickup truck, and it's pretty shocking. So it was pretty much the biggest story this week. First off, the headline thing is the price. This thing starts at only $20,000 for the base model, $20,000 flat. It's $21,500 with the destination fee. But anyway, that is the cheapest truck you can buy. But that's not the only way that it's the cheapest. It also, you can still get into the mid to high 30s if you load one up. So it's kind of like the Bronco Sport, as far as how much it maxes out at. But this is way lower than a base Bronco Sport with that starting price. It's kind of mind-blowing. The other shocking thing, though, is that it's still actually comes standard with a hybrid setup. So that is different than the Bronco Sport, which just has, the little 3-cylinder engine. This standard motor is a hybrid, which also usually adds cost. So the fact that the hybrid is the cheapest one and it's the one that's offered at 20 grand is pretty crazy. It's also, this now officially makes it the cheapest hybrid vehicle you can buy in America. It undercuts the Honda Insight by about $1,500 or $2,000. So you're getting a pickup truck for less than a Honda Insight, and this still gets pretty impressive fuel economy. I don't know if it's going to be as good as the Insight, but it's not very far off because the crazy thing is it manages to get 40 mpg in the city on the base model. Now that's the base model, it'll go down a little bit, and of course if you go for the non-hybrid it'll be a lot lower. But still, the fact you'll be able to pull off 40 mpg in the city, I think it's 37 combined, 33 on the highway. Obviously, this has the very blocky aerodynamics. So highways where you take the hit, but still, even 33 mpg on the highway is crazy. So yeah, and the hybrid powertrain also is going to be a very stout one. So people who want a durable little truck, off-roading wise, that remains to be seen. But as far as reliability goes, this should be a very good setup because it runs the same 2.5 liter inline-4 naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. With an electric motor, and combined it has 191 horsepower and runs through a CVT. Not very exciting if you're an enthusiast, but this same setup, now this is a newer version of this setup, but this same setup is basically the same thing that's been running in the Escape hybrids that have been running as taxi vehicles in New York City for years and years now, over a decade, honestly. And those have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles, and they run totally fine. Their batteries are fine, and I believe the battery chemistry is still the same nickel hydride. I could be wrong on that, but even still, just the fact that this motor is durable, the hybrid powertrain is durable, and if you're buying a base truck and you want it to last a long time, 20 grand to have something with this good a fuel economy, it makes a lot of sense even if you aren't a truck person, as long as you don't mind not having a trunk that's sealed off. You can get a tonneau cover or some type of cap on the back or something, but as long as you can deal without a traditional trunk, this makes a lot of sense, and I can see how this is kind of now the replacement for the Focus and things like that, and it kind of makes a lot of sense and might appeal to a lot of people that, again, aren't even in a truck, but are just like, wow, I can get this brand new Ford for 20 grand that, gets great fuel economy and has decent amounts of space and very practical with the whole truck thing. I think this is a genius move to make it this cheap. I don't know how they're making money on them, but it's pretty impressive. Unfortunately, though, that engine for the hybrid powertrain is only available with front-wheel drive, so you're going to have to deal with that if you want good fuel economy. That will be available for all 3 trims, though, this engine, so you can still have a fully loaded Lariat and still get the awesome fuel economy, or, 1 or 2 mpg less, but basically that same fuel economy, even in a fully loaded model. So that's nice. It also does get a simpler torsion beam rear suspension here for that hybrid version. The upgraded engine is the 2-liter Turbo 4 from the Escape and the Bronco Sport, and here it does the same 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, which should make it feel very punchy for even the mid-size truck segment. Even this is kind of smaller than the mid-size truck, it does have a little less power than the Ranger, but compared to like a Ridgeline or even a Tacoma or something, this is going to be similar power-wise, but that turbo should really make this thing feel jumpy in the lower RPMs. That upgraded engine can also be had with either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, but if you do get it with the all-wheel drive, you get an upgraded independent rear suspension instead of the simpler setup in the front-wheel drive ones. But you can get this motor with front-wheel drive only, which should be kind of a tire roaster, I think. It'd be kind of funny, but you can get that if you want, which is interesting. The base engine can tow 2,000 pounds. The more powerful engine does 4,000 pounds of towing with a tow package. Payload is 1,500 pounds for all models, and its bed is 4.5 feet long, but it does extend to 6 feet with the tailgate down, and I guess if you have a little bit of an extender there, so you can actually drive around with the tailgate down and have stuff in there. Inside, it shares a similar design to the Bronco Sport, but the screen does have an interesting bin right next to it there, which I'm guessing is to maybe future-proof the design for a bigger screen down the road. I'm not sure, but that's a little odd looking, but other than that, I think, it's very rugged and kind of, exciting looking on the inside. Definitely much more exciting than an Escape interior or something like that. The back seat looks to be about as tight as the Bronco Sport, though. And if you watch my Bronco Sport interior review, it's not a super spacious back seat. If every one of the vehicles over 6 feet tall, it's going to feel kind of cramped, I think. So, definitely sit in one of these if you're on the taller side to make sure it actually works and you can actually use the back seats before you go and buy one. But yeah, it does have storage bins under the back seats and stuff as well. Styling wise, personally, I'm not crazy about the front end. We actually saw the front end in a leak a while back, and I was like, oh, that can't be the production version. It looks so unfinished and like weird. Sure enough, the leak was 100% accurate. That was the production front end. Those are the headlights. I think just the headlights need more like darker elements or something. They just seem like they're missing a few pieces in them or something. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think the styling's even going to matter because, I mean, it looks decent enough. And again, that price tag and that fuel economy are going to be enough to have people lining up at Ford dealers, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I think they're going to sell like crazy. They're going to be going on sale this fall, and you can already order one now if you want. I'm sure they'll be selling out super quickly, just like all the other stuff Ford's revealed recently. The Lightning, by the way, the F-150 Lightning is up to over 100,000 pre-orders now. So, I mean, Ford is killing it with their truck sales, and the Bronco, even though this keeps being delayed, I mean, that still has a very healthy pre-order list as well. So anyway, bravo Ford. They are just rocking it right now. But it's not all great news at Ford, in my opinion, because for some less impressive Ford truck news this week, they finally confirmed the horsepower numbers for the new F-150 Raptor, and it does the same exact power as the old truck. 450 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque. We know the Raptor R is coming, which will use the Shelby GT500 motor, and that's great. There's rumors that it's going to be a limited production model, but even if it isn't, as of right now, the Ram TRX is the king. We'll have to see what the actual numbers turn out to be for the Raptor R, and if it competes, well enough with the Ram as far as pricing and stuff. But yeah, in the meantime, TRX remains king. It's kind of a shame they didn't bump the power at all for the Raptor, but it is what it is. But anyway, interesting to hear that. But for some big news for Toyota fans this week, Toyota has finally revealed an all-new generation of the Land Cruiser for the first time in 14 years. I mean, talk about a big monumental event. I mean, that's pretty rare. So anyway, it doesn't seem to be coming to the U.S., so sorry to be the bearer of bad news if you still thought this was coming to the States. It's not, at least for now. It is pretty likely that a Lexus LX will be coming here with the next generation version, and that'll be based very similarly on the Land Cruiser. But for those that do get in the rest of the world, you'll have to be okay with not having a V8 anymore either, because it is announced finally officially it's going to have two engines available for the rest of the world. They're both twin turbo V6s. So one is a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 that has 415 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque, and I'd be willing to bet that's the engine the new Tundra is going to use, because there was talks that was going to use a twin turbo V6 as well. We'll have to see if that turns out to be the case, but that kind of might give you an idea of the kind of power you might get out of that engine if it did end up in the Tundra. The other engine available is the 3.3 liter diesel that has 309 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Both run 10-speed automatics and come standard with four-wheel drive. And the new Land Cruiser also sits on the new TNGA F platform that combines some of the TNGA platform elements with a frame structure for extra strength and of course extra durability off-road and stuff. But even with this extra strength, the vehicle is around 440 pounds lighter than the old truck. The suspension has of course been reworked as well and uses a new electronic version of Toyota's kinetic dynamic suspension, and so that whole system that they have in the Land Cruiser is upgraded here for improved on-road performance, they say. There's also a new multi-terrain monitor, which is kind of similar like what you get in the Hummer EVs and stuff, where you can have this several different views of your suspension, what it's doing off-road, and all those types of things. So kind of fancy with that if you want it. The interior also is very nice and doesn't look like it's 14 years old anymore, so that's a huge improvement. Anyone who watched my Land Cruiser review, that was definitely a sore spot. So yeah, now I have a nice large touchscreen there. Looks kind of like the same size as like the 12-inch screen you get in the Highlander. Seems to be like that screen. You also get greatly improved materials, it seems, although it does still have analog gauges. You get a digital portion in the middle, but not fully digital gauges, which on a vehicle that's expensive, I still feel like would be nice, but I feel like Land Cruiser buyers definitely like having bare bones stuff, and they don't care if it's ancient, so I'm sure they'll be totally fine with having gauges that aren't cutting edge. It also still has 3 rows of seating as well. It'll be arriving in other parts of the world later this year, and hopefully we hear something about a Lexus version relatively soon, but we'll have to wait and see. Chevy this week has revealed some changes for the Corvette for the 2022 model year. And there are the usual minor things, like there's a few new colors, there's a new spoiler, and a new front splitter that you can get as options. The starting price has been bumped up another $1,200 over last year. So now we're sitting at over $62,000 for the starting price now of a Corvette. Interestingly, they also upgraded the fuel injection system though, and the engine's tune. So according to an interview that Autoblog did with their chief engineer, the changes lower emissions and provide better stability at idle. And so all the specs are still the same as before, they say, but the cylinder deactivation has also been expanded to work in more scenarios now as well. So they don't have any updated EPA ratings, and they're kind of suggesting that they might not change much, but that the real world fuel economy is going to be better in the Corvette. Not sure who cares about that, honestly, but I guess maybe if it does bump the EPA number up a tiny bit, help their average out at Chevy, then it might be worth doing, especially since there's no hidden performance here, so that's cool. They also have this new IMSA GTLM Championship edition of the Corvette this year, but it's just an appearance package that was inspired by the C8R race car, so nothing to get too excited about. I don't know when we're going to see the new Z06. It's still radio silence from Chevy officially as far as that vehicle, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But anyway, interesting to see all that. Kia this week has also revealed the next generation Sportage for the first time, and this is the international reveal, and we just have a few pictures here and very few details, so we don't have a lot to go off of here so far. But at least we now see what it looks like. It looks very much more aggressive up front there. Has some EV6 inspired taillights in the back there. And it's a bold look, but I think it works. I don't think it's as good looking as all the other Kia SUVs they've been coming out with recently. But I think it should, work pretty well for them, and we'll have to wait for the US version, see if there's any tweaks or anything. Inside, though, it does get the same twin 10-inch screens for gauges and infotainment, just like you get on the other new Kias, but the rest of the interior, thankfully, is actually pretty unique and looks pretty nice. I was honestly expecting like a mini version of the Sorento interior, but this actually is a little bit different, and so I think it looks pretty nice. Hopefully, we'll get some US details soon, but there's talk that this won't even be a 2022, it'll be a 2023 model vehicle. We'll have to wait and see on that, but I don't envision it being that long of a rollout unless they want to reveal it just super early next year and make it a super early 2023. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, but interesting to at least see what it looks like. And BMW this week, after revealing the i4 last week, this week BMW has several new reveals here to go over. So first, the regular 4 Series Gran Coupe was revealed, basically being the non-electric version of the ID4. So looks very similar to the ID4. It also does still have the hatchback rear end and frameless windows like the i4. So that's pretty cool because it's meaning that this is kind of really going head to head now with what you get with the Audi A5 Sportback and stuff. So that's cool. It's 5.9 inches longer than the old car, 1 inch wider, and 2.1 inches taller actually as well. So bigger car in every way. It'll be available in a 430i and M440i versions, and both will be available with either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The 430i runs the 2-liter Turbo 4, making the usual 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque that it's made for a good while now. The M440i uses the 3-liter turboed inline 6 that does 382 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. Both run an 8-speed automatic, and 0 to 60 is 5.8 seconds for the 430i and 4.4 seconds for the M440i. So very appropriate. The 0 to 60 time matches the name. That's cool. Pricing starts at $45,795 for the 430i and $58,995 for the M440i xDrive. The xDrive version is going to be the first one that's available, so it'll be a little cheaper for the rear-wheel drive, but we don't have that price yet. But anyway, they'll be starting to arrive in August, so cool to see that. But next, BMW has revealed the mid-cycle facelifts here for the X3 and X4 this week. So they get sharper styling up front and in the rear with much bolder headlights and taillights, but thankfully the grills aren't enormous yet on these. They've been spared. The engines are unchanged, but the 6-cylinder versions do get the 48-volt mount hybrid system now for extended stop starting and coasting, along with an 11 horsepower boost that it can provide in the right conditions. It also gets BMW's newest adaptive cruise control that does stop and go along with steering assist and automated lane changes as well. All you have to do is hit the turn signal stalk and that'll do it for you. Inside, the infotainment screen is upgraded to the 10.25-inch unit as standard, with the 12.3-inch touchscreen and gauge cluster screens being optional. The center area also has been redesigned to be more similar to the 3 Series now, and prices go up by a few $100s depending on the model, and they should be arriving soon. The X3M and X4M also get improvements here for 2022, and the refreshes on these kind of make them look a little bit more like the M3 and the M4 up front, although thankfully these ones also have been spared the massive grille, so they don't have to worry about that, and that honestly might sway some people into the SUVs over the sedans. But anyway, unlike the regular models, performance has been improved for these M models, so while the horsepower remains the same, torque has been bumped up by 15 pound-feet for the regular engine to 457 pound-feet, while the competition models rise by 37 pound-feet to 479 pound-feet total. 0 to 60 times drop by 0.2 seconds for the regular model, and that goes down to 3.9 seconds now, and they drop by 0.3 seconds for the competition, which now does 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. So basically, the new standard model is now slightly faster in a straight line than the old competition version, and the competition version of the new one is, the top dog. But so yeah, other changes here for the M's, those kind of remain the same with all the upgraded brakes and all that you get on the M models. But they do benefit from the other X3 and X4 improvements as well that I mentioned, on the inside and stuff. And surprisingly, these improvements to the M models are free, with prices staying this exact same as last year, which also is probably going to be upsetting if you're someone who just bought one last year, because you get more performance this year for the same money. As long as you like the new looks, I feel like that's a little bit of a bummer for people, because they just came out with the X3M and X4M 2 years ago, the 2020 model year, and now 2022 you already get these big changes and no price hike, which is interesting. But yeah, cool to see that. Bugatti this week has revealed the Chiron Super Sport, and so it's the production version of the car that did the 300 mile per hour record run a little while back. But this one is faster than a regular Chiron, but it only gets to 273 miles per hour. Only. What a shame. It's kind of funny. It's still insane and amazing. The 8-liter quad-turbo W16 engine now does 1,577 horsepower and 1,180 pound-feet of torque, thanks to changes to the turbos, engine oil pump, and cylinder head. These changes also allow the red line to be 300 RPM higher, but it still only red lines at 7,100 RPM. But what do you expect out of a W16 quad-turbo engine? It's not like it needs to be wrung out. The top 7th gear is taller as well, obviously to accommodate that higher top speed. The performance numbers are just as insane as you'd expect. 0 to 124 miles per hour takes just 5.8 seconds. The 0 to 186 mile per hour time is only 12.1 seconds. I don't have a 0 to 200 mile per hour time, but I'm guessing it's under 15 seconds. So you can literally go 0 to 200 miles per hour and then back to 0 in probably under 30 seconds. Like, mind-blowing stuff. Mind-blowing stuff. Anyway, other improvements include tighter steering, firmer springs, retuned dampers to all improve that high-speed stability. It also gets the unique Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires that they developed for the 300 mile per hour run. And so those tires are actually rated for 310 miles per hour and are X-rayed to ensure that they're structurally perfect before they're mounted on the car. Now, for that top speed run, they also X-rayed them again then to confirm that. And I'm guessing if you're going to go for one of these kinds of runs, you'd be better off also X-raying them again yourself too, to make sure nothing happened in your 5 miles of driving before you actually went for this top speed. But anyway, it also gets a 50-pound weight reduction, streamlined front bumper with air curtains in the sides, front fenders with holes that release air pressure from the wheel wells, and a 10-inch longer rear with a new rear diffuser, and that's all to help with the stability at high speeds and improved downforce as well. The wheels are also unique, of course, and despite the weight loss, the interior can still be just as luxurious as any other Bugatti, which is one thing I love about Bugatti. They don't force you to go with Alcantara everything just because you're going for a performance model, and so you can have this just as decadent as before, but have that insane performance potential. And they'll start production later this year, and pricing starts at around $3.9 million before options, and it is added to my new dream car wish list if I ever had obscene amounts of money someday. That thing is epic, so awesome to see that. For a much less impressive official reveal this week, Buick has revealed the 2022 Enclave refresh. You get these new accent lights there where the headlights used to be, going along with the trends that every other car company has been following. The actual headlights there are lower in the bumper. The grille's now larger as well, and the front and rear bumpers get new looks, as do the taillights. The amount of standard safety tech has been improved as well, and so you now get standard automatic emergency braking and blind spot monitoring as standard, which is nice because a lot of other companies do make you pay extra for that. But as a trade, they still make you pay for adaptive cruise control in the Buick, whereas many other models give you adaptive cruise as standard these days. Mechanically, though, they're all the same as before. The interior has been restyled a little bit, though, so you get a restyled center console with a new push-button shifter now, and there's also upgraded materials, they say. And so anyway, there's going to be going on sale later this year. We don't have any pricing, though, for those yet. Fiat's CEO this week dropped a pretty big news story here, and it's nothing that's super surprising, but they announced that Fiat will go fully electric by 2030 and said that between 2025 and 2030, our product lineup will gradually become electric only. This is a radical change for Fiat. But is it really? I mean, city cars, those, I feel like everyone assumed they'd all be going electric anyway, and Fiat doesn't make anything super big anyway, so I mean, maybe for the bigger stuff it's a little bit more surprising, but, I don't think this is too big of a shock. I think if Stellantis has to start making brands electric, Fiat's like the first one, like, yep, you're going electric. That's an easy one to, go for the electric thing first before you, swap over Dodge and all that other stuff. But anyway, we don't have any other details beyond that just yet, and, who knows if Fiat's even going to stick around in the States here. We might not even see electric Fiats beyond the old 500 that we already got in the past. But, Fiat's down to just one model here in the States, the 500X, which also doesn't sell super great either. Unless they have a ton of new products coming to the States very, very soon, which it doesn't seem like they are, I envision them pulling out of the States sooner rather than later. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll stick around. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't think that there's really much hope here for Fiat in their current form. So we'll just have to wait and see. And I love the 124 Spider. I think it was awesome, but just no one bought them, and so this is where we're at with Fiat. But anyway, interesting to hear that. Lastly, Italian website Passion Auto is reporting that Dodge will be supposedly getting a version of the Alfa Romeo Tonale crossover that's coming next year, and it's rumored to be getting the Hornet name finally. So Dodge made a Hornet concept car, if you remember, back in 2006, and they did renew the trademark for the Hornet name just last year in 2020. So clearly they're still interested in the name, or at least keeping the rights to the name. And again, they made that concept car, so they were toying with the idea. And obviously any modern vehicle would probably not look anything like that concept car since it was so long ago. But according to the report, if this does happen, it'll be like the Tonale being a small crossover, most likely subcompact crossover as far as classification. It'll be related to the Jeep Compass and would probably run a 2-liter turbo 4, so a little bit punchier than a Jeep Compass possibly. Front-wheel drive would be standard, all-wheel drive would be optional, and there would also most likely be an optional plug-in hybrid system similar to what you get on like the Renegade 4xe and Compass 4xe, which Europe gets, but we still strangely don't get those models. We're only getting the 4xe version of the Wrangler currently, but I think we're going to eventually get those other 4xes. It just makes sense to offer them here at some point. And so, this will get that. And that should be the punchiest motor of the bunch. I think that puts it in the mid-200s as far as power and stuff. It's a subcompact crossover, but hopefully Dodge gives a little bit of a performance spin. Hopefully, if it's based on the Alfa Romeo Tonale, that's hopefully going to be a little bit more sporty than a Jeep Compass as well, if it's going to wear the Alfa Romeo badge. And we do know that Alfa Romeo CEO actually, I believe, test drove one of these Tonale prototypes and was not happy with the performance and told them to go back and make it better. So hopefully, if we're working with those very strong bones of the Tonale and it actually having legit performance, then hopefully the Dodge will inherit that as well. We'll have to wait and see. That's all speculation, but interesting, to hear. It makes sense for Dodge to do some type of smaller crossover to kind of replace the Dodge Dart and stuff, and have something other than Chargers and Challengers to offer people, especially since the other Dodge stuff has been going away. So we'll have to wait and see on all that, but interesting to hear nonetheless. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the weekly update. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.